Hello, welcome to the Six Figure Influencer Podcast. I'm your host, Allie Reeves. Thank you so much for joining me today for another episode and musing on all the things that I pray are going to move you and your business forward. Today, we are going to talk about growth. Growth on a few different levels, actually. And initially, I just wanted to talk about this, of course, based on business, because that's what we talk about. But after my past couple of days, I wanted to talk about growth in other areas as well, because what I have experienced and what I hear again and again from other mentors and coaches and people that are much wiser and have much more experience than me is your business can only grow as much as you do as a human, as much as the business owner does, right? Like if you refuse to develop yourself personally or spiritually or whatever that looks like, then you're likely not going to see much growth in your business either. This, of course, is not true 100%, right? Like I'm not trying to generalize. I'm sure there are plenty of people who see otherwise. But for a lot of us, our businesses are going to grow in proportion to how we grow. And last week, the last episode of Six Figure Influencer, I shared with you something very vulnerable, very personal, something that I was really nervous to share with you at the time for a few reasons. So if you have not listened to last week's episode, I've gotten such an incredible response about it. So I encourage you to, after this, go take a listen. You do not have to listen in order. But in that episode, I shared with you that my September of 2021 was almost a $50,000 month for my business, which is amazing. And I'm so proud of myself. Well, okay, I am now. But at the time, and what I shared in the episode was that I actually had some embarrassment and shame around that. And I explained why, and I explained the breakthrough that I got from that realization, which was so powerful. And I put it out into the world. And I also kind of shared a lot of this on my social media as well. And the response that I got was incredible across the scale. So 99% of you were very, very kind. Everybody was kind, actually, but 99% of you were happy that I shared this, right? It lit you up. It motivated you. It showed a lot of you what is possible for yourselves. It did what I hoped it would do. My intention for sharing that, it happened. And then there were some people that didn't love it. And I have to say, even the people that didn't love it and who actually spoke up about it were so kind. So, just like the delivery, the energy behind their comments was really just opening up a dialogue, sharing a different perspective. And I was so proud of that because we don't see a lot of that on the internet. Or actually, I'm going to reword that. I'm sure a lot of that is happening on the internet. We just tend to pay more attention to the ugly conversations, right? Where people aren't coming to the table in a good energy. And, it's divisive and hurtful and all the things, right? So the women that came to me, they were great. And then I lost a lot of followers too. Totally fine. Knew that was going to happen. I lose followers with everything that I post. So I was just really proud. One of the particular conversations that I had, her language and the way that she shared her perspective was super interesting to me. And I wanted to share it here because it certainly goes hand in hand with what we're going to be talking about in today's episode in talking about growth, right? So I'm going to read you what she said, and then we're going to talk about it. So she said, "I love following you, and you are absolutely useful," which I thought was such an interesting word to use, but absolutely useful and helpful and a badass. "But I want to be honest, no one shares their salary. It really isn't appropriate, in my opinion. Congratulations to you, but not my favorite post. Life isn't about money all the time." And then we continued the conversation and it went really well. And I'm going to read with you like a couple of other things she said in the next message. And this is the part that got my attention. She said, "I guess it's a moral thing for me and maybe old school. I will always feel uncomfortable when people do that." And she even said, "This is my opinion that you did not ask for. I'm not sure why I felt the need to tell you. I think because I like your work and I wanted you to know how someone in your audience felt," which I respect so much. And I want to know how you feel. So I invite this conversation. But the part that got my attention was, I will always feel uncomfortable when people do that, right? Just like this blanket, absolute, I will always feel uncomfortable. And my thought was like, why though? And that's fine. But, and please keep in mind, I'm sure this woman actually, like, I know this woman she's awesome. I can just tell by the way she brought up this conversation, but I know nothing about her, right? But I would be so curious to wonder if she's ever asked herself why, or ever even like stopped to consider why that's so, right? Whenever you say, I will always be not okay with something, that's so finite and absolute, and never say never, right? And I just find it so interesting because a lot of the times people that feel that way, they haven't taken the time to ask why, and they're almost like not open to other people's perspectives. Not saying that that's this particular person's like what's going on with her, but a lot of people who have that absolute mentality about things, it's typically they don't think about it. It's just that's how they were raised. That's what they've seen their whole lives. Therefore, everybody else is wrong and they disagree. But here's the thing. And what I'm about to say, it took me a long time to figure this out myself, like within the past few years, okay? But did you know that your beliefs aren't necessarily right? Nobody's beliefs are right. It's essentially your opinion on a specific topic. Just because you believe something does not mean that you are right. That's just your belief. And it doesn't mean that anybody that believes differently than you is wrong. That's just their beliefs. They just are. They're not right or wrong. They just are. It is what it is. So I think a big issue and a lot of the reasons why we see the divisiveness that we see around other areas in life, big and small, is because people don't want to realize that, or they never thought of it like that, and they never take the time to ask themselves, why do I feel that way? Is it wrong that somebody else feels the other way? And you can believe what you want to believe. I have many beliefs, and I love my beliefs, but I'm not going to sit here and say these are right, and if you think differently, you're wrong. I might argue with you about it because I might feel strong about something, and I might, express why I feel the way that I do, but that doesn't mean that you are wrong. And I think obviously when it comes to, I'm talking about subjects where people aren't being harmed. Okay. If you think it's wrong that somebody harms somebody, that's different. I don't know. We're not going to get into that, but anyway, it's just fascinating. It's really, really fascinating. So I want to invite all of us to whenever you get triggered by something, and this was what I was saying whenever I was sharing this in the podcast and in my post, was like, hey, if you feel uncomfortable with this, that is okay. There is nothing wrong with that. Own it, sit with that. But then I beg of you, ask yourself why. Why do you feel uncomfortable with this? Take it deeper. That question is what led me to that massive breakthrough that I shared in last week's podcast episode. I was feeling uncomfortable with my numbers and sharing them with you and sharing them with my husband and sharing them, with literally anyone. And it took me months to finally be like, wait, why? Why though? That's so silly. And the reasons why were so interesting. And I realized that they were holding me back, right? Because the energy I was putting out was blocking like what I wanted to attract in. So I'm not saying this because I want to talk you into believing in anything that you are not ready to believe. I just share this for all of us to have more compassion and to be more open to these conversations and not take that stance of like, I never will be okay with this, right? And because you're wrong. And I think you should do things differently. Like, I think we can just take a step back and chill out. So anyway, but that's the thing. Oh, and something else too with this and with that attitude of like, I will never be okay. And just like automatically closing yourself off, no matter on what subject we're talking about. When we do that and we don't ask ourselves why, and we don't give ourselves the opportunity to go deeper and hear somebody else's perspective and, God forbid, adopt a new perspective and evolve, what happens? You stay in the same place, right? And this is like taking it back to what I said earlier about like the divisiveness that we see on the internet and on the media. I think a big part of it is because a lot of people who have these absolute mentalities about their beliefs, they don't want to hear anybody else's perspective. Right? Everybody else is wrong to them. So they only put themselves in groups and around people, and they only listen to content and media that is in alignment with their beliefs. So they put themselves in this bubble, in this little small world filled with a bunch of other people in this little small world that believe what they believe until they don't, and then they get kicked out of the bubble. And that's it. They don't open themselves to anything else. What happens when that happens? You don't move, you don't grow. You're not giving yourself the ability to hear somebody else's side, to dare to think differently, or at least coexist. So I don't want to get too deep into this, but I think you can kind of see like how this can get dangerous sometimes really, really fast. And we've all seen it on some levels. But long story short, growth is necessary for evolution. And sometimes growth is uncomfortable. Sometimes growth is triggering. Growing pains are real. So it's just something to think about. Now let's take this back to business, because I have a lot to say about this in terms of business. Let's get back in my lane. So when it comes to business growth and comfort versus discomfort, I think we can all collectively agree that growing a business is hard sometimes, right? Not always, but like there are plenty of moments in business when you are like actively wanting to grow, actively pursuing profit in your business, that things feel hard. I think we can all agree. And it's cool. Like we're all in this together. It's all good. But something that, because this is that notion of like things are hard, you can get lost in that. It can really turn a day from bad to even worse. It can hold you back, like that fear of like, this is hard, can hold you back from trying new things and getting up after you fail and trying again. So something that served me really well as somebody who, I've shared, this, like I'm in the game, I'm playing, I fall down all the times, but I get back up. Something that served me really well is being okay with the idea that growing pains in business are necessary, but the suffering in business is optional. Okay. Growing pains, when you want to grow anything, but especially business, you can't have one without the other. They're going to be there. They are necessary, but the suffering is optional. So to give an example, here's what I mean. If you want to build muscle on your body, what do you have to do? Sit on the couch and watch Netflix? Go do a bunch of cardio? Probably not. You have to get your butt in the gym, move some weights around to the point that you become uncomfortable, right? If you want to realize like a substantial change in your body, you have to push your body to the point of discomfort. Otherwise, you won't change, right? If you're lifting 10-pound weights week after week after week after week, you are not going to see much change. It is only until you successfully stretch or like break down your current muscles that you will actually see growth and increased strength in your body over time. It is no different in our business, right? If you want to grow as a business owner, a level of discomfort is also required, which will no doubt result in growing pains. So the equivalent is, I have this business. I really want it to grow. I want it to grow with everything in me. I journal about it all the time. I talk about it all the time. I have on my vision board trips to Paris and fun bags and like team members and all these things. But when it comes to hiring somebody, you clam up. You don't want to. Or when it comes to showing up consistently, you don't. Or when you have to learn a new skill that you know is required to grow your business, it's too much. There are other things in your personal life that take precedent over that thing, right? It's the same thing as like you're choosing to sit on your butt and watch Netflix versus like doing the things in the gym to cause the discomfort that's going to equal your growth. So here are examples, just some examples of discomfort that I have experienced in my own business that will no doubt equal growing pains. Okay, so I want you to listen and I want you to make a mental note. If I pass something that you're like, done it. Okay. Here are some examples of discomfort that will cause growing pains in your business. Number one, obviously starting a business, big time. Selling. Putting yourself out there, right? Putting yourself and your offers or whatever you sell out there, sharing your heart, increasing your prices, staying consistent, hiring support, trying something and failing, trying something and succeeding. Yes, that can also end up putting on growing pains onto you. Succeeding, believe it or not. Saying yes and no to certain opportunities will cause growing pains. Prioritizing your business over something else. Prioritizing something else over your business is also sometimes required, will no doubt cause growing pains. Overcoming and replacing limiting beliefs. Going for bigger goals. Owning your worthiness. Evolving and pivoting as your business and brand grows and as you change as a human. Standing firm in your truth. Walking with fear rather than running from it. Using your voice. All of these things, those were just how fast I was able to rattle those off. And I read those from a list, but like how fast I was able to put those on a list. I mean, they just like so fast. That's not all of them. But those are things that I have had to do and have to continue to do week in and week out to see growth in my business. Okay, so like I said, growing pains in business is necessary. But even if you hear that, and so many people will hear that and they're nodding their head, they're like, "Yep, absolutely, amen." But still, so many people will continue to choose to hover right under their personal discomfort threshold, right? The equivalent of, okay, you just lifted 10 pounds. We're ready to bump it up to 15 and you stay at the 10. Like, I don't know. 15's really uncomfortable. I know, like, I've been doing 10s for a while, but I'm going to stay at the 10s, right? So like, same thing, same example in business. This is where like you're ready to put out an offer or increase your prices. And you're like, I don't know. I really want more revenue and more profit in my business, but like, I can't imagine increasing my prices. What if people don't like me anymore? What if so-and-so has something to say about that? That's too uncomfortable for me, right? So they like choose to hover. They refuse to like cross that threshold. They refuse to push themselves to maybe go all in. It's ultimately this refusal to feel anything other than comfort for any extended period of time. And then so many people have the audacity to wonder why they aren't experiencing the growth that they dream about and that they know deep down they are capable of. Every single person is capable of having the level of business that they want to create. Period. That's not a question. When you make it happen might be in question. How fast you make it happen is in question. But like your potential for success, that's not in question. It's just like, how uncomfortable are you willing to get to go get it? How heavy of weights and how are you willing to lift to see the growth? How consistent are you willing to go into the gym and lift those weights to see the growth? So maybe you can relate to what I just said, just like I can, because trust and believe, like I take action like crazy, but there's so many places in my business right now where I'm not crossing that threshold. Plenty of places. I am just as guilty of this, right? And it's like, it's not one of those things where you have to throw yourself over the deep end. Like, oh, well, if I want success, I have to like take the leap and just be crazy right out the gate. And one of the best ways that I heard this explained is, I mean, and the gym analogy just works so well, but it's like, yes, you want growth, but that doesn't mean that if you're used to lifting 10-pound weights, you're not going to go in the gym and attempt to lift 50 pounds because you're going to tear something. You're going to hurt yourself. Same thing in business. Right? There are levels to this. And yes, we can quantum leap. That is a thing. And you will know when it's time to do that. But like, I'm not sitting here saying that I want you to get crazy and put yourself in situations that you are not ready for. I'm just saying that the feeling of discomfort is not something you need to avoid. The feeling of discomfort is not going to hurt you. It's more than likely going to help you. But there's definitely like a pace that you can go where you're not hurting yourself. You're not going to overwhelm yourself. You're not going to freak yourself out and scar yourself or burn out. Right? You can still grow and feel the discomfort at a reasonable pace for you. And that's going to be different for everybody. So I'm guilty of this too. But here's what we must understand to our cores if we truly desire to grow successful, profitable businesses. Our addiction to comfort perpetuates our stagnancy. Okay. Our addiction to comfort perpetuates stagnancy in any area, in personal, in business, in relationships, right? You're just going to, if you stay in your comfort zone, you're not going to move. And in some areas, that's cool. You're in a great place. You're like, I don't want to move. Cool. No problem. You don't have to. But it's only when we break that addiction and learn to embrace those growing pains that we will actually experience the true growth. All right. It's as simple and as complicated as that. Growing pains are a requirement. There's no way around it. Now, the suffering, this is a different story. Okay. The suffering, like so many people, and you will see this, and this is something else I'm 100% guilty of. Like so many of us will choose to carry the suffering and how hard it is and whatever as like a burden or a chip on your shoulder, consciously or not. And the thing is that is 100% optional, and it's going to make your entrepreneurial journey far less enjoyable, right? So like all the people that are like, oh, growing business is so hard, I'm so busy, and it's just like, it's like this badge of honor or chip on a shoulder or whatever. Like you don't, that's an attitude that you don't have to wear. That's optional. And it's easy to, like, everybody's going to have their day, obviously, but I don't want you to get into the habit of thinking that like, okay, growing pains are necessary, so I just have to suffer and I just have to be miserable for a period of time. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So let's take it back to our workout analogy to illustrate this. How many times have you dreaded, like absolutely dreaded going to the gym all day long? And then at the end of the workout, you thought to yourself, oh, that wasn't so bad. Or that sucked, but I'm so glad I did it. Probably everybody on some level, right? Like this is why a lot of times if I'm going to work out, I have to work out first thing because I am going to dread it all day long. Or even worse, I'm going to talk myself out of it and I'm not going to do the thing. Therefore, I'm certainly not going to see that growth, right? So we've experienced that. Our minds are so powerful that we have the ability to ruin an experience before it even takes place. Right? We've done this in so many different areas. We've all done this around our businesses in one way or another. And without the awareness of our ability to do this, we run the risk of doing one of the following. Number one, stripping the joy out of what could have been an expansive experience, right? So yeah, you're growing a business. It's hard, but like the journey, there's no, you know how people say that you're never going to arrive at your success, right? I mean, there might be sometimes you're like, wow, that this is a really big thing on my bucket list. Like you're speaking on the TEDx stage, you know, I've arrived. But for a lot of people, it's not like this destination where it's like, okay, I've arrived. Because for most people, when you get there, even if it is like a bucket list place or thing that you finally get to do or that you finally accomplish, what happens? You've grown to that level. Now there's a new level you want to get to. So what's sad is a lot of people will go literally their whole lives chasing this final destination that ultimately never arrives, thinking when I get there, then I'll be happy. When I get to that place, then I can have fun. Then I can hang out with my friends. Then I can be present with my kids. Then I'll work on my marriage, or I'll work on my health and my wellness, or, you know, whatever. When it's like, boo, that it's not going to come. Like the journey is the thing. The journey is the thing. So if you are choosing to suffer the whole way, it's not going to be a fun ride for you. And you're going to get to one of those destinations, be like, was that even worth it? Probably not. So when we don't have this awareness, we do one of two things. We strip the joy out of what could have been a really amazing experience on that journey. Or even worse, we talk ourselves out of doing something that could finally result in growth. We talk ourselves out of it. We're like, oh, I don't want to suffer. I don't want to get uncomfortable. I hate this. This sucks. I'm miserable. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to invest in that thing. I'm not going to hire that person. I'm not going to share my heart or sell or whatever. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to wait till tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes. I'm going to wait till tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes. I'm going to wait till next week or till my debt is paid or till the kids are here or, we all have the thing. So, okay. That said, yes, we are all adults, right? We all have a certain level of responsibility and restraint where that we can tap into that can help us think and do better, right? This is us being open to other people's perspectives, being open to the growing pains, being open to catching ourselves and being responsible and calling ourselves out on our own crap and saying, okay, you're your own worst enemy at this point. We all have that power within us, every single one of us. But that doesn't mean that this stuff still is not really freaking hard, right? It does not mean that this still isn't hard, even with the awareness that growing pains are necessary, even with the experience and the practice of not suffering and trying to have a good time and making things worse, it's still hard. When you are a solopreneur or a small business owner, you have a small team. When you're like me, who you're the only person in your family or your friend group who desires this next level growth. Not saying my friends don't want growth. I'm not saying that at all. But like, as an entrepreneur, I'm the only one. Like, it's me out here in my immediate friend, family circle. Just me. So when you're like me, when you are pushing yourself consistently past your comfort threshold, like it's your job, because it is, it's still nerve-wracking. It's still scary. It can still feel like danger, and it's still freaking hard, period. Okay. So I just want to acknowledge that like, yeah, I know like I came at y'all a little bit today, and you might be like, dang, I feel like she was talking to me, but I promise you I'm talking to myself too in so many different ways. But I just want to acknowledge that growing pains are still hard. Like, whether you suffer or not, whether you like put a smile on your face and you put on your best attitude, like it can still be hard, and that is okay. And that doesn't mean that you're crazy for thinking that. Like, it still is, but it's just like how you choose to walk with that day in and day out, and just making sure that you're not self-sabotaging yourself to avoid that discomfort. But like, in my own experience, thinking back on all the things that I continue to do and all the things that I've done in the years of business, I'm not even kidding you when I say, like, I thank God almost daily for the mentors and like the women that I've strategically put in my life. Right? Because no, the suffering, it's not required, but it can still be present at times. And I've seen from experience that it is so much easier to navigate when you're not going through it alone. So if you are like me and you have that small team, or you don't have a big friend group of other entrepreneurs, it can feel really lonely, especially if you work from home. Okay. So I just want to share that, like, I'm not even kidding you when I say my entire business, my entire being, my paradigm, the trajectory of my business and my life completely shifted when I made the decision to surpass my comfort level and invest in the mentors and the things I have invested in my business. Okay. This is a big level of discomfort that a lot of people will not push themselves out of the threshold because of insert a million different excuses. And then things are too hard. They don't have the support. They don't know what they're doing. So they hold themselves back and they don't see the growth. right? Like something has to change. If you want different results, something has to change. This was my realization at the end of 2018 when I was growing my business and it wasn't going anywhere and I was miserable and I was putting myself out of my comfort zone. I was trying to be happy, but I was alone and it was awful. So by investing, so like back then, my decision was, okay, I need support. I invested in my very first mastermind, and since then, throughout my whole business, I don't always work with coaches and mentors, and I don't believe that that's necessary. I'm not one of those coaches that believes that if you're going to coach other people, you always have to be mentored or you always have to be investing in something. I do not believe that at all. I think there are different seasons. But the decision to join that mastermind and every program since then has landed me in some of the most uncomfortable months of my life. Okay. Which you might be thinking, like, what? I thought you were already uncomfortable. No, it made me more uncomfortable. But in the click of a button, signing up for these things, in the click of a button, I placed myself in a room where I was the least successful, where I was the least intelligent on that subject matter. In the click of a button, I bet on myself and my vision, even though in my present reality, there were no reasons to at all. Nothing showed me that, like, hey, yes, this is worth investing in. It wasn't there yet, but like I had a vision. I knew I was capable. I bet on myself. In the click of a button, I chose growth and the pain that I knew would probably accompany it. And in the click of a button, I collapsed time because I didn't have to trial and error it by myself. Right? You do not have to go it alone. And because of that decision that I have made in different periods of my business, exponential growth happened, but in a way that didn't traumatize me or burn me out because I had support, right? Let's go back to the gym analogy. I wanted to grow faster than I was growing, so I brought in a trainer. Same thing. Who helped me push harder, but not to the point where I was hurting myself. Same thing. This is why I created the Game Changer Mastermind. This is why. I wanted to create a safe place where discomfort is embraced, growth is standard, and support and inspiration are abundant so we can rise and shatter ceilings together. If you are somebody who you want to grow, and I know y'all listen, the women listening to this, you're not listening to this because you want to be comfortable. You're listening to this to learn so you can grow. And by the way, this mastermind is not for everybody at all. But whether it's my mastermind, whether it's somebody else's program, whether it's hiring somebody else as a mentor, if you are in a place where you want to grow and you feel like you're growing at a pace that's not really serving you, or you feel like you don't have the support that's serving you, or you're not having fun with it, or whatever, you need somebody to hold you accountable, please do it. Put yourself in the room with people that get you, that support you. It is so important. It's not necessary, but it's there for you. And it completely changed the game for me. So if you do want to learn more about my Game Changer Mastermind or anything else that I have to offer, you can reach out to me on Instagram, DM me. We can chat. Like I said, it's not for everybody. I do have another program or mastermind that's coming out that's specifically for women in direct sales. The Game Changer Mastermind is for women that are mentors and coaches and they own their business and put out their own things, because that's what I'm an expert in scaling at. And I want to help those women scale to 6 and multi-6 figures. But if you are in direct sales, I have something else coming down the pipeline for you if you're wanting to grow your business on social media. So that's coming. But again, it doesn't have to be my stuff. And you may not be in a season where this is necessary, but it's just something that we need to talk about. Growing pains are necessary if you want to see growth, but the suffering is optional. And a big way that I put an end to my suffering was putting myself in circles of people that got me and that could support me and that could save me our most precious resource, which is not money, is time. I love you. I hope this served you really well. If so, please let me know. You can tag me on Instagram, DM me. You can leave me a review on iTunes. But I'm cheering for you. I believe in you. You have exactly what it takes to succeed and create the life that you want to create already within you. It's just, are you going to go get it? That's it. I love you.